Well, now, show all. Zoom in. Isn't that amazing? Testing. Just a little test here to see how it works. And I hope everything's working well. I already did this and it didn't turn out too well for me, so it's all new to me, but I want to have fun with it. What I'm wanting to talk about is a little bit of what happened to me in 2010. I had a flu shot, and 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital paralyzed from the H1N1 flu shot. This happened in Canada, and my doctor gave it to me. It was all done in proper manner, and it's a result of a reaction to any vaccine that can happen to people, and it happened to me. And they say it's very rare, 1 in a million, but through the numbers and that have been recorded in countries, unlike Canada, there's they say that they're supposed to record them, but I think there was only at that time 3 of the provinces recording them, so they were not following the law. But I'm not here to talk about that part of it at the present time. I'm here to talk about what happened to me. I was a quadriplegic 3 weeks after having had the shot. The week in the hospital, it went from my knees, my feet, my knees, to my hips, to my bladder, to my lungs, right to the top of my head. I was like a mummy. I was a quadriplegic. The only thing I could move were my eyes, to talk with my eyes. My brain was functioning perfect. So it attacks the peripheral nerves, thank goodness. It doesn't touch the spine. I was in the hospital for a total of 8 months, 4 months in a rehabilitative state. And they did a wonderful job in the hospital helping me. There's a few things that I learned that they could have maybe done a little sooner and been more on top of those areas. And for me, it was the hands and feet, and I'm sure that's the way for a lot of people. Guillain Barre has been around since about 1859. It was back then called, it was in France, it was called French polio. And it affects you in a similar manner. At the present time, I walk really quite well. Being a personal trainer, after coming out of the hospital, I went to about 6 visits at $110 a visit. For physio and rehabilitation. And after that I said, well, what more will you be doing? And here I am. I looked after myself, and I went for about a year and a wee bit every day, and then I went back to work and looked after other people as well as myself as I keep training and trying to improve. In the world, there are about 18 of the G20 countries that have a program which is a compensation program. And in the U.S., because it's closest to us, I'll sort of dwell on it more than anything else. In 1976, the swine flu was devastating in the military in the U.S. because, as you know, they use the military for guinea pigs. So in that time, they had about, I believe, 500 people with different forms of injury, as well as Guillain Barre, and I don't know how many did die at that time from the vaccine. There are a lot of deaths from just the flu shot vaccine. By far, more people die from a flu vaccine than other vaccines, as reported by the U.S. Department of the Attorney's Department and their vaccine department, which was organized because a judge, I believe, in the 10th Circuit in the U.S. at that time said, we're being inundated. Our courts are filled with people. The insurance companies are not wanting to represent the manufacturers of the vaccines. The vaccine companies were saying, we are not going to make this vaccine anymore. And the government was desperate then because it's a political thing. So their president, good old Jerry Ford, got on there, rolled his sleeve up, and had his vaccine. And everybody went back to work. And the insurance companies insured them, and everybody thought that things are just great again. Well, they're not. They've not been from the beginning of time with Guillain Barre, which is what I had. It's around today. It can happen in other ways, but I'm dwelling on the vaccine. Now in Canada, or I should go back a little bit more about the U.S., it took them 10 years to establish their program. And it went through their Congress, and they did a fairly good job on it. But it's had changes since, and there are a lot of people that are not too happy with it at the present day. The amount of people that are going to this special court, and it's a master that handles the court, and lawyers represent the petitioners and the lawyers for the government, naturally, in the cases presented. And you're either accepted as, the information they accept as fact, or you're not. Now, once that happens, you still have the right in the U.S. to go out into the regular court and go through the torts. So, unlike Canada, we have no access. No access whatsoever to the court. You can go, but you can't win. So you're very foolish to even attempt it. A couple have in the past, early on in Quebec. I believe there was a case where a man spent over $1 million, and at the end of it, the judge said, I feel for you. I'm very unhappy that I can't help you, but the law does not allow me. It seems so irresponsible that a judge in a courthouse that's sitting there listening to cases and knows in his soul that the information that's presented is truth and fact, yet because of the system and the way you have to present information and the way you have to accept it as a judge, you can't help the person, and you know that he's right. As unlike in the U.S., they've created this over a 10-year period. People petition it, go to court, and receive their compensation, 100,000, 75,000, 400,000, $1.5 million, depending on the injury, the length of it, and how long you will continue to be injured or handicapped in a lot of ways for a lot of people. Canada, nothing. So what I'm looking for is people who or whomever is willing to help get this going. It should be retroactive to 2009 when the H1N1 came back or was instituted again. It's now in all the flu vaccines, I understand, but then it was brought back, and it's, to my understanding, part of that swine flu of 1976. So I'm looking for someone to give us assistance. The media has helped a little bit with us. CTV was a wee bit helpful. I've approached certain members of Parliament, and I've not had great response or help from them. And in one case, a member of Parliament in the federal government even said, you won't get it through, you best start in the provincial area. Well, it's not a provincial thing. It should be handled by the people that purchase all the vaccines, that pass them out to people across Canada, and then let the funds be distributed individually to the provinces to pay for it. But it would not cost the Canadian taxpayer any money. This will come from the manufacturer. It will be a tax on it like they did in the States. In the US of A, over the period of time from 1976 until it was started in '88. They went retroactive, brought the funds in trust for those 10 years. I believe it was over $1 billion that they brought in, back, taxed it to the manufacturer, and however else the money was brought into it and where from. It won't cost us any money, and all it is like insurance to make sure that the injured are compensated, are looked after. That's all they need, is to be suffering and pain and agony throughout their life. Some still in wheelchairs, others having claimed bankruptcy, others broken homes and families. And had they had this assistance, in most cases, I'm sure it wouldn't have happened. It would have eased the pain of the whole family situation. So it's a mere tuppence to ask that this be done. It affects none of us, and it to this date, had Canada had it in force, we would probably, just using the statistics of the USA, funds gathered and monies paid out, we'd have had over $500 million brought in, and probably $300 to $400 million paid out into the public arena, where the people would spend it, save theirself a lot of pain and agony, and feel part of the citizenship of Canada. So something must be done. It must be retroactive to 2009. I've had people say it should go way back further to when they were injured. And again, we need the assistance of some legal people out there, someone that's willing to or has access to the right ear to let them know what's gone on, what needs to be done. It's very simple. And I'm a regular man sitting out here, and you give me a very good lawyer, in 3 months I'll plagiarize most of what the US did. You just add your Canadian laws to it, and it's set. There's no big deal to it. Just do it. People need to feel that they are protected, and it may help get more people to take vaccines. Who knows? At least the risk is so great, a lot of people are fearful of it now. So that's what I want. I need an assistance. I need compassion of people that have the interest of helping their fellow citizen. And you can contact me at Bobby Martin 76 shaw.ca at shaw.ca. You can read about my story that my daughter has written most of, and I've got a lot of information on it from other people that have researched Guillain Barre vaccines, etc. And that's at ramgbs.wordpress.com. And again, you can vote at, go on to CTV, they have a site there, or at Care2 petition site, Bob Martin, no dash fault, F-A-U-L-T. That's the way they called it in the U.S. Now, I'm not saying we need to call it no fault, because someone is at fault somewhere along the way, and I've just put it that way to sort of ease the pain for everyone concerned right now, so that we can get on with doing something rather than arguing about what needs to be done. It's very simple and clear, and I can make it that way to anyone that gives me a chance to talk to them. So please contact me at your convenience. Email me, go on site, let us know, let's get going. And thanks very much. Bye-bye.